So we like questions like, how do we get across the river? And it takes courage to ask questions, and sometimes they make us stronger and braver and certainly more truthful. So in honor of the religious pursuit of questions and love of questions, we do that every once in a while here. So this is not a church, clearly, that has too much of a problem with dealing with hierarchy, I think, obviously. But there are a few reasons you would do a spontaneous questions service each year. It allows more people to participate, right? It's sort of an expanded kind of joys and concerns in a way. Gives me one less sermon to prepare. That's always nice. But it also allows a model to open learning in a way and to living the community that we are. But it's also, I just want you to embrace this a little bit. It really is kind of an act of spiritual and clerical disobedience, which I like. And it's sort of, think about not here, but just historically and just outside this tradition, how contrarian it is to offer up a chance for anyone, right? It may feel weird to be the leader, but this would never happen in most traditions, right? I think the Quaker tradition, and we were having a conversation outside, and Sandra sort of asked, what's the kind of complementarity between Quakers and Unitarians? Because Quakers sort of have one tradition that went ministerial and a little more structured, and the other one that went sort of... And we have the fellowship model, and I didn't really say that. There's a lot of churches like our size have become fellowships and have really been anti-clerical, and I think it's an interesting response to that. But I just love the act of resistance that it is to offer up this opportunity, and maybe it's not appreciated for the openness that we have, but, wouldn't it be great to go to like a Catholic church or a Muslim temple and sort of just have free question and answer time? Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would. So I offer up this reading by Howard Zinn to get us started. Howard says, "You're saying as our problem is civil disobedience, but that is not our problem. Our problem is civil obedience. Our problem is the numbers of people all over the world who've obeyed the dictates of their leaders, of the governments that have gone to war, and the millions that have been killed because of that obedience. Our problem is that people are obedient all over the world, in the face of poverty and starvation and stupidity and war and cruelty. Our problem is that people are obedient while our jails are full of petty thieves, and all the while the real thieves are running the country. And in the spirit of civil disobedience, we do this task." So, do we ask the difficult questions in order to avoid being in the moment of now? Like, are the questions a distraction? Right. Yeah, sure. They're both a distraction and a virtue, right? That's true of humor. I think, yes. So, sure, when you don't have a clear theology, you got to go somewhere else. Oh yeah, I think that if you can retain the wonder and let those questions cultivate a sense of wonder, I think that we can, especially environmentally, right? You can begin to sort of see we need to preserve this unique little spot we got. And I think that one of the things that religion, so much of religion has been self-preservation. And continues to be. We're all very much concerned about, or largely concerned about how we, right, as individuals are going to transcend this death business. And that's a real concern for all of us. Except that those kind of shows sort of begin to kind of expand, you sort of begin to broaden your concerns past that kind of stuff into the thing that you are a participant in, living or dead, in a way, right? One to me of the distracting parts of the Christian story is that it really pulls you into a deep conversation about your transcendence as a soul. And if you don't believe that, then religion can be useless for you. But if you begin to cultivate wonder, you're always going to be interested, right? You're interested even past your time, so to speak, right? I think that we only transcend, we are eternal in the sense that we are willing to give up us in an odd way.
Internet.
Yeah, that's pretty useful, actually. I don't know, just, I guess I think a general perspective, right? Like, I mean, when you shift perspectives, the questions and answers shift to some degree, I guess. I don't know. You know, my mother watches Jeopardy with me. She doesn't tend to sort of do a lot of cosmos kind of stuff or read a lot, or, you know, she's a great gal, and she watches Jeopardy with me, and she goes, "You've seen this before." No. You saw this last night, right? No. Like, I'm not that smart, you know, but it's just like, if you start being attuned to learning, like I've always got like 4 or 5 CDs in the car cooking on 1776 or David Sedaris or something, you know, and you just end up, you know, you kind of accumulate kind of a certain wisdom. I don't know.
Why do you give away the name God to those who have distorted and misused it? Why not reclaim God as the infinite love that gave birth to all life and who is only love, peace, freedom, truth, and compassion?
That is the UU question, is it not?
That's a religious question.
That's a good question. Well, because there may not be a God, and we have to create space for those who don't believe that word being attached to a personality or some vague universal force. There are those that don't believe that God fits with either of those things, and yet we have drawn the circle wider to those who find that distracting. So it's difficult to re-embrace that word. Besides, you can't just start reclaiming God and not expect those who have a different view of God to, oh, right, they mean it that way. I mean, it's the best and worst word at the same time. It always will be. I mean, at least for as long as we can see, you know, because it's like love. I mean, you know, it's even more vague than love. Love has, you know, you can kind of, there's different layers of love. God is, you know, right? I mean, God is the feeling that we attach to the best of our sympathies, and right, that's arguably God, and God is also could completely be that real personality that whispers into Moses' ear. That could be true, and God could completely be a work of our own imaginations. I mean, that's math beyond my skills, but I think the idea that they should call it creatorism would be probably a more accurate sense, that the focus being on the creator rather than on the create, right? I mean, because evolution is a creative process. I mean, and there's no reason that the God that I just said might not exist couldn't be behind the whole creative process that is evolution. I mean, that's right. I mean, so, right. I mean, you know, like, you know, work with me here. You know, it was 3,000 years ago. They didn't get everything right. You know, it seems kind of, and the vague outline isn't so bad either, right? You know, like seas and fish and then humans. Yeah, it's about right. Like, you know, when you march down the days, it's not too far off.
Has the UU denomination driven out the humanists by becoming more friendly to God talk? Is our use of logic and reason what make us unique among religions? And if we lose it, are we losing direction? I think and hope that the UU world has become evolved enough to know that we don't need one more liberal religious division, right? I think we all know that we don't need humanists to feel so alienated that they have to go somewhere else, and if the humanists and the sort of reclaiming theology, spirited language people, I don't even think there's a real division there, but if there is, we all know that more divisions aren't that helpful, right? We have to recombine, and we have to be empathetic and forgiving of language in order to bring us together, not separate us. So I don't think we're at real threat for that. I mean, because I'll find myself at General Assembly grumbling one way and then grumbling the other, right? When something strikes me as sort of obsequiously reverential, I'll go, I feel like a humanist. I want to put my humanist badge on. And then if I feel like we're just being too stale and there's no art to the theology, I'll sort of go, we need to be more Pentecostal, right? So I think I'm a good litmus test because I'm sort of right in the middle.
I think it's also interesting that we have questions on one end and questions on the other end. Yeah. Let's see. What are the 3 best things about UUism?
Mark and Annette. The 3 best things, the idea that we continue to refuse to be creedal, right? Like the idea that you don't even have to participate in the 7 principles. We were asking earlier those who said, I said, which one do you hate?
I found Bev's quote.
This service has gone to hell.
Many beliefs, no dogma, Unitarians gather to share the interconnectedness of the world. Isn't that a lovely quote?
That's nice. That should be on a t-shirt.
When I say I am a UU, I often hear back, oh, that's the religion that says anything goes. Please tell me again, in a good short reply, what's different beyond the 7 principles that many religions hold? And then we got, maybe you just answered it. Okay.
I think the difference is that once you give up the idea that you've got it right, you're liberated, right? So we gave up the idea that we had it right. Fought a little bit to do that, hedged our way that way. But once we sort of gave up the idea that we had the answer, we let it evolve. We had a little debate out here the other day about, I was saying there's something sort of, scandalously religious about the fact that we don't really claim anything exclusively. And then we sort of debated, and I've sort of brought to the sort of, coals for that. And I think that, but it's true. I mean, we let it evolve, and it's almost like raising a child. You've got to let the world have its influence, right? You can't protect it forever. It's eventually, right? A church wants to help its people do the right thing, but we let that go early, So the fact that it's open, and I was thinking of just about academia, right? Most churches and academic institutions of which it trains its ministers have this somewhat uncomfortable relationship. We don't fight that. So whatever it is that someone can learn that's true, we'll embrace it, right? I mean, 60 years ago, there was not a lot of embracing of gay marriage, for example, right? Now we sort of see it as, okay, 2 committed people soberly but with love coming together. All right, maybe it's not my cup of tea, but it clearly seems to be a part of the world. And when you let people do that, they seem to form bonds, and they have about the same success rate of sticking together as other people do. So, as heterosexual people do. So let's claim that to be sort of just an inherent choice and dignity in the human rainbow. All right, once you accept that, it's kind of okay. And we fight less. And when you fight less, you don't have to make things that look silly, right? I mean, that's part of what's beautiful about us. That's the second point. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. So I think the final thought for me would be the challenge we face is, of course, to be open and to be rational and humanistic and to be spirited, right? That is the tougher stretch, to be the bridge between reason and all the feeling stuff, the hope, the faith. The degree to which we can do that as an institution is the degree to which we will succeed. That is the challenge, because clearly not many people are going to come in and feel like they're persecuted into believing this liberal tolerance business too much. I think that the question really becomes, how good do we do the emotive feeling stuff? That's the challenge I think that the UU world faces, and each church and every individual in it.
You've all heard this probably 5 times, maybe more. A UU was invited to a Quaker meeting by her friend, Quaker friend, and in the circle they're sitting there quietly. Occasionally a few people stand up to declare something heartful, but mostly there's silence. Eventually the UU turns to her friend and says, "Hey, when does this service begin?" To which the Quaker says, "The service begins after we get out of the worship meeting here." And so it should be. Go not only in peace, but with a commitment to live into and out of your values. Amen.